All right, here's the drawing that shows it a little more accurately what the prehumans are vis-a-vis the humans. Notice that in the drawings the hands are down pretty much where they belong relative to ours. Also notice the rib cages are the upside down funnels of primates in the prehumans as opposed to ours. What's the situation there? Well, you can't tell it very well from here, but all of the prehuman heads are stuck on their bodies like that. The way primates are. Their heads are down in on their shoulders. Only we have that elevated neck sticking our head up off of our torso. They also have that extra arm length and that extra power, and so they need a bigger fulcrum up here to wing their arms and do what they have to do. So all of that extra muscle mass plus the head torque down in there squeezes out the room, and so you're going to get that pinched off triangle that primates have. And we, with our shorter, lighter arms and lighter bones, we don't need all that muscle mass, and we got our heads sticking up, so we have a completely different rib cage. I want you to understand that. Now, the main thing to understand here is there is not a single human bone in the so-called prehuman fossil record. The main thing I want you to understand, there's not a single human bone in the so-called prehuman fossil record. And guess what? Anthropologists will not argue the point with you. An idiot can see it. An idiot can see it. All you got to do is point it out to them. Well, they know that. So they say, you're right, you're right. There's not a single human bone in the prehuman fossil record, even though we insist that these are indeed prehumans. The reason we can get away with this is because we're going to put somebody right in here that's going to show a transition between these guys, and that is the missing link, the famous missing link. You've all heard about that. This is what it is. This is the thing that's going to stand right in here and miraculously show a smooth transition from this to this. Well, I tell you what, if the missing link was here today, he would need about 20 or 30 cousins standing right beside him, showing enough gradual transition to make this plausible. You don't just get one missing link. You need dozens to make this theory work of gradual transition, the Darwinian paradigm. And they don't even have so much as a fingernail, not a fingernail, of the missing link. Which leads us to conclude that Charles Darwin is a blowed up peckerwood. However, they will not concede that fingernail that's missing in that direction. Darwin's still intact, everything's still okay. Missing link's going to show up. It's been 140 years, not yet, but he will show up. Okay, next slide. All right, the throat thing, I want you to get that clear in your mind. Notice, if you will, this is a standard primate throat, and of course this is our throat. A complete redesign, complete. Not least of which is the fact that they can breathe and eat and swallow and drink at the same time and not choke. We, of course, you know what happens when we do. The peas come out of our nose when we start coughing. Okay, so the point is that primates with this kind of throat can make tremendous amounts of noise. Anybody's been to a monkey house or, you know, at the zoo, you know what I'm talking about. Hoops, hollers, screams, howls. They know no limits. They can just puncture your eardrums, some of them, howler monkeys particularly. But they cannot do the thing that we can do with our throats, which is what I'm doing right now, this minute. Break those sounds into little bitty pieces. It's called modulating. They can't modulate. They can't speak. And try as we might to teach them to speak, and we do. You know, Coco, they've been working for her, what, 20 years now? Up to maybe 3,000 words. You could put her in a third grade class and she could probably be valedictorian. But she can't speak. She can't speak, and she's never going to be able to because she doesn't pack the gear, as they say in the military. She doesn't pack the gear and never is going to. No primate is. We are completely different and completely special because of it. Next slide. All right, now, so here's what we're left with. This supposed smooth transition right on through from the early ones to the later ones, including this. Now you can see, I hope, that all that's really happening here is the brains are getting bigger. And it's harder to tell because the Neanderthals and the archaics, their brains are expanding back here in what's called an occipital bun, but they're getting bigger every step of the way. It surprises most people to find out that Neanderthals had bigger brains on average than we do. 1500 cc to 1400 cc. Bigger brains than we have, Neanderthals. We shrunk somehow and got so much smarter. Figure it out. Point is that we're told that all these guys went extinct at 30,000 years ago because that's when we see the last Neanderthal. That's when we find the last Neanderthal fossil, 30,000 years ago. Okay, so they went extinct and that's it, and we're left behind. We were told for a very long time that we appeared at 30,000 years ago. That Cro-Magnon appeared right as the Neanderthals ended, so it was a real nice fit. You know, we appeared somehow, we killed them all, and that was it. Transition, we took over the lease, and that was it. So, the reality then later proved to be that these guys existed at least 120,000 years ago. These guys existed down into 30, so you got this huge overlap of nearly 100,000 years where they're living basically side by side on the planet and not killing each other off. So that one kind of went out the window, so they said, all right, so we didn't evolve from the Neanderthals, we evolved from the Homo erectus. You saw the Lake Turkana boy and how much we look like him. We evolved from him now. That's the new theory. Okay, you can see the problem. Now, did this really happen? Did they all go extinct? Well, why would they go extinct? No natural predators. Meanest dudes in the valley. They can take a lion on head to head and tear it apart. That's how strong they are, and that's how big they were. So what would make them extinct? Could we do that? Yes, we could. We are vicious little buggers. We are smart. We hunt in packs. We are pack animals. We're hyenas. We're two-legged hyenas. And we have a savage territorial imperative. Together, we could kill any of them. One-on-one, they just pop our heads off like a pimple. Understand that. So, given that, what if what we did was instead of driving them to extinction, we just drove them where they don't make fossils anymore? What if that happened? Is that a plausible scenario? Let's take a look at it. All right. Let's look at the Earth first, where these guys will live in. The Earth is divided into geological niches. Ecological niches. Ecological niches. You have the prairies, the savannas, the grasslands, the lightly wooded areas, primo niches. That's where everybody like us would like to live. You know, it's comfortable. The not so nice niches are the heavy, deep, dense forests, jungles, swamps, bad places like that, where we kind of live on the edges, but we don't really live in the heart of darkness. We think we do, but we don't. So, what if these guys lived in the primo niches, which they did because they were leaving fossils? And guess what? You leave fossils in the primo niches, in the prairies, savannas, grasslands, lightly wooded areas. Why? Because it's very unique that a fossil gets formed of this kind, because you have to die in very specific circumstances. You have to get caught in a flash flood so that your body is washed away, covered up by mud, so predators can't get you. Your flesh rots off, the minerals leach into your bones, and you become stone and you become a fossil. Or you get killed at the water hole. One day you're really tired, you're really hot, you're not paying attention, you go down to drink, the lion jumps on your back, kills you right there at the edge of the water hole, and then the wildebeest herd comes up behind him, run him off, stomp you down into the mud, and now same process. You're covered by mud, your flesh rots off, your bones are, the minerals leach into your bones, and you become a fossil, and that's it. And that's pretty much it. It's very hard to form a fossil otherwise. And so we see how miraculous that process is just to make them in the first place. And then, millions of years later, it washes up, or whenever it washes up, and somebody sees it that knows what it is and can recognize it and can save it. It's miracle stacked on miracle. That's why they're so few, and they're so rare, and they're so precious. Because of that. Now, understand this, that in the deep woods and jungles of the world, they don't make fossils. Doesn't happen. You get your water out of the environment. You don't have a water hole. You get out of your food and things like that. It will surprise you to know that there is not, to this day, a single solitary fossilized bone of a chimpanzee in the world that we know about. They just don't make fossils. So, instead of them all going extinct, Why don't we just postulate that they lived in the primo niches? This guy arrived sometime prior to 120,000 years ago when he starts leaving fossils. And he issues an eviction notice to all of these. Get out of town. We're here. We're taking over. And they do. And there'll be some skirmishes. They'll kill a few of them. And these guys, you know, they're not that stupid. They'll figure it out. These guys are bad news. We got to move. And because they're adapted to the planet, we've seen the millions of years they're here. They're adapted to this place. They can go pretty much anywhere they want to. And so they do. They just walk until we don't chase them anymore. And that's into the deep woods and the jungles of the world. And if that scenario is true, and I postulate that it is, then it would explain the hundreds and thousands of stories that we have from around the world of what? Upright walking, hair-covered creatures living in the deep forests and jungles of the world, every continent except Antarctica. The hominoids. It explains the hominoids. You with me?